Welcome back, everybody, to Pivot Point of View. I'm Mr. Millsap along with Becky Pearson. If this is your first time tuning in, first of all, Happy New Year. And I'm an athletic trainer. Becky is a physical therapist. And today we're going to talk about GLP-1s. Everybody is writing their goals down right now. Maybe you've been doing everything you can to lose weight. The scale isn't budging. Maybe you have some sort of chronic illness that won't go away. Maybe you're dealing with a multitude of problems and you just can't get over the hump. So we're going to talk about GLP-1s today and how they can help you, the common myths that go on with them, and how they can be incorporated effectively and safely into your workout program so you can hit your goals for this year. With us is Maggie Lamle. She's a nurse practitioner. We've had her on here before to talk about peptides. She has an amazing wealth of knowledge on this topic, and we are so thrilled to have her. Maggie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So, Maggie, there is a lot of buzz around GLP-1s right now, and there's a ton of information out there that kind of have a bad rap in most circles. Tell us, though, how those things are not true, some of them, and how people can safely get started on a GLP-1.
Yeah. So I will have to say I am one of those people who had to eat crow when it came to GLP-1s, GIPs. I worked in healthcare for 16 years, still do. Sick care is what I call it. Switched over to functional medicine about 5 years ago and had to eat crow because I learned that these are very effective tools utilized for multiple different things. They kind of got a bad rap. A lot of doctors that were using them weren't familiar with how to use them. They were grossly overdosed and misused, and then there were no protocols. There was no teaching that went along with them. And so what we saw were a lot of bad side effects. Massive weight loss, malnutrition, muscle loss, hair loss, the Ozempic butt, the Ozempic face. We've all seen it, the nausea, the vomiting, the GI issues, all of that stuff. And what we've learned is that a lot of that is based on dosing. Another thing too is compounding, so who made it, how it's made, and a lot of different things go into it. But what I learned is that they are extremely effective and they are extremely helpful. Work on multiple different pathways. They work on the kidneys, the gut, the liver, the heart, the pancreas, muscle, even adipose tissue. All of these things. And it is really just it was, for me, mainly it was just a lack of knowledge. And now that I know how they work and how effective they are a true game changer in Western medicine, because the killer in this day and age is heart disease, and this is one of the ways that we can get ahead of that. So lots of really cool stuff about GLPs going on right now. So
Yes, ma'am. And I watched that podcast that had the cardiologist on there about how GLP-1s help with heart disease, and it absolutely blew my mind. I mean, the fact that people can take that and then gradually wean themselves off of all of these medications and get their blood work to where it's almost spotless with a GLP-1 is just absolutely insane and such a great thing if used correctly, like you said. And the kind of, I don't know if it's new or one of the more popular things right now is microdosing. Talk about that a little bit.
yeah, so that's my favorite. Microdosing is more for, so when we're looking at GIPs, or GLPs only, whichever you decide, we have kind of two different ways you can go. So there's kind of the weight loss path, and then what we call the longevity path, or the microdosing path. And so with the weight loss, obviously that's for those people that we just really need to get a lot of weight off of, like 50, 60, 100 plus pounds. Other things like what we discussed, the cardiovascular, the inflammatory, the food noise, the liver, all of these different things. There is a path that we call kind of the longevity path, which is microdosing. So you can get some good fat loss with that, but it really focuses on the metabolic improvements, the cardiovascular benefits, the cognitive benefits. It's even used with autoimmune issues because it is the anti-inflammatory benefits alone affect so many downstream pathways. It helps women with PCOS. It helps with the autoimmune, like I said. It helps women with menopause because, when our estrogen drops, inflammation goes up. And so we can put them, we can fix those hormones, and we can stick them on a microdose, and it helps control that inflammation, because we're not going to get them back to their 20-year-old estrogen levels, but we can help control that inflammation and I mean pain, and it helps with food noise. It helps with addiction. They're looking at it as it is what we call neuroprotective, and so they're looking at it it has been studied extensively. Even some of the older GOPs from like the 90s have been studied extensively in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and things like that. So there are so many different just positive things that come from this. I use a lot with my clients who are struggling with just that last 10 or 15 pounds. Those women, middle-aged women, just cannot reach those goals. All the things that they've been doing, the working out, the eating right, all of that stuff, they can't get there. They can't get over the hump. And so microdosing is excellent for that. It's kind of what I call like a metabolic reset. And so, yeah, it's totally my favorite. I take it once a week. My husband takes it. It is fantastic. The food noise aspect alone is probably the biggest thing for me. I didn't realize how much I struggled with. I knew I did, but it was just a constant noise in my head. And so that was a game changer for me for sure.
Can we talk a little bit about how it works? That was always like my biggest thing when I first was introduced to it. And as I look at the information, tell me if I'm wrong, but basically what it does is it slows the emptying of the food out of your stomach, so you feel fuller faster, right? And
Correct.
then that also helps like level out your blood sugars. Would that be a correct way to interpret that, or am I thinking about that wrong?
Well, so that is part of it. And so there's lots of different ways, and it kind of depends if it's just a regular GLP or if it's a GLP with a GIP, which is a dual agonist, which means it works on even more pathways. So a lot of times it does a lot with our insulin. So it helps tell the pancreas that we're going to need more insulin. It makes us more sensitive to that insulin once it comes out, and it helps trigger our fat cells and says, okay, are we storing or are we burning type thing? And so there's a lot but yes, so the initial, the basic things that we look at, and as far as fat loss goes, is that it's going to go in one, and it's going to it's going to slow things down. It's going to make us feel fuller longer. It's going to, make us just not as hungry. So we're going to probably get into a calorie deficit. It is also going to, like you said, control that blood sugar and the insulin, which is going to decrease that sugar roller coaster that we get on, and help decrease cravings, those things that we don't want to eat. The other thing too is it's going to act on our brain and those reward pathways. So we have GLP receptors in our brain, so that's another thing too. So it is a multifaceted, works from a lot of different angles. But yeah, the main one is usually that most of us talk about is the kind of the GI aspect.
So one of the things that people really talk about when they talk about GLPs is they're worried about the side effects, and then they're worried about the muscle loss and some other things. So what are the rules or ways that you can maximize the effectiveness of your GLP?
That's a great question. This is my favorite part too. This is all my favorite. So what we first want to make sure that we're doing, if we've never used a GLP GIP, even if we have, and we had a horrible experience, which I deal with a lot of people who have had really bad experiences, is that we want to look at dosing. Dosing is very important because not everyone's the same. Not everyone tolerates them the same. And so the general rule that we usually go by, and I'm not I don't diagnose, treat, or prevent any illnesses, and I don't prescribe or anything. But when we are discussing it, we always talk about starting low and going slow. So, when we're starting somebody, even on a microdose, if they're nervous about it, we'll start them lower. And they discuss that with their doctor, and we look at, and the doctors that we work with work in a compounding pharmacy, so they're making these doses specifically for these people and the goals that they have, and so they're in constant contact. We're talking about side effects, we're talking about how they're feeling, their appetite and all these things, and we dose accordingly. So that's the first thing that you have to be very important, or be very careful with. The second thing is teaching. My business partner and I created a protocol that when we have clients that start on a GLP, we make sure that they are getting enough protein, fiber, hydration, and strength training. So when I say that, I mean I want them getting 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. I want them getting 25 to 35 grams of fiber. I want them to getting 100 plus ounces of water a day, depending on size and activity and all of that. And then I want them moving 3 days a week minimum, preferably strength training. But when we have people who are just have a lot of fat to lose and are in a lot of pain, or just aren't able to move as much, we can adjust that. So it's 3 movement days then, and 30 minutes at least. And so what that's going to do is actually kind of help maintain that muscle. The other thing too is we look at a lot of protein supplements, creatines, things like that, making sure they're getting all of those things. We monitor, we want to know what their appetite's like, making sure they're getting enough calories in, because a lot of times, a lot of that muscle wasting that people talk about is a malnutrition thing. It has nothing to do with the GLP. GLPs are actually proven to be muscle protective. And so a lot of that, again, when I had to eat crow, a lot of that negative stuff that was associated with that is because people were malnutrition. They weren't getting enough in. They were sick. They weren't eating. They were losing rapid amounts of fat and muscle. When you lose that much fat that fast, your muscle's going to go with it. It's inevitable. It's, it didn't have anything. I mean, it wasn't the GLP itself that was causing the muscle issue. It was the malnutrition issue, the lack of protein and calories and strength training and things like that. So, and that relates back to starting low and going slow, because we don't want you to not eat. It's so, movement, protein, fiber, hydration, those are all key things to and when we start a client on a GLP, like I said, that protocol goes with them, and then we are in constant contact with them. They're in constant contact with their provider, so that they can get the most bang for their buck.
What do you say to people who have stalled out on a GLP-1? Like they're not losing weight anymore. They seem to be doing all the right things, eating enough protein and all the other stuff. So what are some of the common things that you see whenever somebody stalls out?
So, first, I'm going to look at what kind of peptide they're on. So, if they're just on a single agonist, maybe it's time to go to a dual agonist. But before I do that, we're going to discuss appetite. So sometimes we get lax in our habits, and the thing about a GLP, GIP, and all these peptides is these are tools. These are tools that we can utilize. These aren't a crutch. These aren't, something that we're going to use in place of healthy lifestyle, And so I go back and look at those first. Appetite, making sure we're not, we're still, if we're still in a fat loss phase, we got to make sure we're still in a deficit. We got to make sure we're still moving. We like you said, protein, all of those things. And if those all look okay, then we can look at maybe we need the dual agonist if they're on a single agonist, because it's going to act on more pathways. It's a little bit more effective. Some other things that we can look at is detoxing. So maybe we need to add in a glutathione. Maybe we need to, look at, sometimes we can add in a human growth hormone secretagogue or human growth hormone releasing hormone. Those are options too. Those aren't always options for people, or they're not interested, but that's another. I mean, there are I tell people there's a peptide for everyone. But I look at the lifestyle aspect of it first. The other thing too is maybe we need a dosage change. If they've stalled where they are, maybe we need to go, and they have not reached that fat loss goal yet. Maybe we need to go up a little, and so that's one too. There's multiple different aspects that go into it. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's about the most of what we look at usually. So
Talk about, you mentioned adding certain peptides. What peptides would you suggest to add? I know you mentioned a couple of them. Talk about how those work, and then what are some other peptides that would pair well with a GLP-1?
yeah, so there are all kinds of peptides. Have peptides for obviously the weight loss peptides, your GLP, GIPs, in weight loss and longevity. We have ones for muscle mass. We have ones that help with sleep. We have ones that help trigger your body to release its own growth hormone, like you did back when you were 25. Those help with recovery, repair, mental clarity, strength. I really like. So we have a stack call that has a tesamorelin, ibamorelin, which is a human growth hormone releasing hormone, and a human growth hormone secretagogue. So they actually work very good together. I can tell you that my muscle mass was next level on those. Works great with a microdose, because a lot of times what we do is we take that even the microdose just by itself and use that kind of as a foundation, and then we can start adding in depending on what the client's goals are, which ones, which path they want to take. Another one that we use a lot with the microdose is the Wolverine stack, which I always call that the Destry stack, because that's his favorite. But it's the VPC 157 TB 500, and so that is where we can go in and, if we're having a lot of gut issues, if we're having healing issues, if we're we're looking at recovery, repair, people with injuries, if there's people who are not a candidate for a GLP, BPC, that Wolverine stack is a great place for them to start, because it is highly used, highly safe, and a great place to start as well. It has a lot of anti-inflammatory aspects. What else? Oh, we've got like GHKCU. It helps with wound healing. It helps with collagen production. It helps with let's see, hair growth, nails, skin. I'm actually on it right now. I had to have a place removed off of my lip, and it healed in 6 or 7 days. They told me I was going to have a big wound on my face for Christmas, and I used that GHKCU, and it was gone. By the 8th day, you couldn't even tell I had it. So big believer in that. What else do we have? We've got the Samorelin, which is a great one for my women. It's a human growth hormone releasing hormone, and so it's a very good one for women. Helps with sleep, helps the body, helps signal the body to release its own hormones. And so a lot of times it can help if we've got some, middle-aged women who are having some issues, aren't ready to do hormone replacement. It can kind of help with that. We have the sexual peptides, man. We have the PT141, which works on the brain. Helps just get you in the mood. The sky is the limit with peptides. We have, and adding in NAD, that's a great one as well. It is, I don't think it's actually a peptide, but it is, we use it a lot in conjunction with peptides, just because of its cellular energy. It helps, it helps the powerhouse of the cells function. Let's see, we've got glutathione. We've got, what am I missing? I can't remember. I can't think. There are so many. And they all really do work pretty well with the GLP-1s, GIPs, especially the microdose, because we can really get rid of that inflammation, and it makes those peptides just work that much better. So
if somebody did kind of stall out, they were on a microdose of GLP-1s and they have stalled out, and they've done like the initial 3 months of it, would you recommend them staying on it possibly and then adding in one of these other ones after, like, let's say you went and looked at the lifestyle and everything, um and that's good. That, I guess that's one question I have, and I do have one other question before it leaves my brain. Is so you said zero point 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per ideal body weight. So I kind of misunderstood the calculation of that. Like, let's say I want to get to 140 pounds. So I take the zero point 0.8 to 1 times 140, or if I'm at 150, I'm taking it times 150. I would do it times
So
40.
your ideal, where you want to end up, is
Okay.
where I start. Yeah.
Because I do think
And
there's
it's,
confusion on that too, like how much
yeah.
protein. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and a lot of times I will kind of go on the higher side because I know a lot of people are going to fall short, and so I will always kind of go higher. That doesn't work for everyone because then I've got a few of those, type A's that are like, I'm failing. I'm like, okay, let's calm down here. You're okay. And so back to the microdose, if you stall, or what to do with that. With that one, there are a couple of different things you can do. So if you are wanting to, you can most definitely add in those human growth hormone peptides. Those are going to continue to get you some of those results. Those are good with the visceral fat, that dangerous fat that's around our organs. It's going to help you with your strength, your stamina, recovery, all of that stuff. It does not have a lot of the anti-inflammatory stuff, but it's a good one. If the other thing, this is where I'm headed, is that you can cycle off of that microdose for a while and then start it back. I know a lot of people who actually will do a weight loss dose, and then if they suffer with severe food noise or cravings or things like that, they'll microdose a couple times a month, or every couple of weeks or something like that. So it can really, and that's a discussion you can have with your doctor and all of that stuff. But they're very flexible. For me, when I got kind of where I wanted to be, because I did lose some weight with it, because you will lose some weight usually, although it's not considered a weight loss dose. Once I kind of got to where I wanted to be, I backed off. I take half of what was prescribed, and so if I start to notice that, I'm kind of building up kind of that tolerance for it, I can creep back up, and then maybe I'll cycle off for a while. But ultimately, for me, I will be on a microdose until I can no longer either afford it or I die. I am, just because I know the long term benefits, and I come from some high risk folks, as far as cardiovascular and things like that. And so I am a believer, but yeah, so you can add things in, and or cycle off and on. These are things that you don't have to be on them forever. But the microdose is more, like I said, the longevity one, the one that you can stay on long term. But if you start to kind of not see the results you want, you can cycle off onto a human growth hormone and then cycle back onto your microdose, and after that's up. So there's lots of different options. So
Are there dangers of coming off of it like too quickly, or like if you are going to cycle off of it, should people be aware of certain things, or take any precautions that way?
So with the microdose, well, with both actually. So it is designed, when it goes into the body, it lasts about 5 to 7 days. So a lot of times, I mean, it just will be out of your system in about 7 days. It basically, it sometimes can take up to 2 weeks to get it all out. But usually, like for me, I can tell kind of when my microdose is, when I'm getting ready to take my next dose. Like my knee will kind of ache a little bit because it helps with the inflammation in I've got horrible knees. But so I always know I'm about a day or two away, I can tell, but there's no rebound. I mean, you're not going to blow up like a balloon. You're not going to get a whole, I mean, the inflammation's not going to come storming back in, but over time, that food noise, the volume's going to crank back up. The inflammation is probably going to start creeping back up. Those you'll start noticing, but it's not something that you have to, that you have to taper or anything like that. We're signaling a pathway that is meant to happen. We're not blocking anything. We're not blocking these receptors. We're not, tricking the body into doing something, it's not meant to. With the weight loss dose, I will tell you that if you, it is extremely important to have those lifestyle habits in place, and that diet in place. And, because if as if this isn't the end all, this is a tool that we use to help you reach those goals. But you got to put in the work. It's not magic. And once you go off, you've got to maintain, but hopefully we've got you to a point where you can move. You've got muscle mass. Your metabolism is healthier and functioning better. And so that's, that's a big factor. But yeah, there's no taper of any of the peptides that I'm aware of.
Now, one of the other things that I'd heard about as a hazard or warning, or like somebody said, oh, that lady had a bowel obstruction because she was on a GLP-1, and I think that is really funny to hear that, not haha funny, but they totally blamed the GLP-1 for the bowel obstruction. And so I do, although I know Dester hates talking about this, anytime you're on a higher protein diet, you really do have to be cognizant of making sure you're getting A, the water, okay, B, the fiber, and you're really monitoring that, because obviously I've heard of 2 people having bowel obstructions and they blamed it on the GLP-1s. And so it is something that I think we do need to talk about. And as much as Dester hates it, at least it's either a myth or a mismanagement, I guess, is maybe the proper way to address that. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. So it's a thing, but it's just like the loss of muscle mass. If you aren't managing it appropriately, it's going to happen. And so what I really, again, with my clients, when we start this, I am adamant about water. I am adamant about fiber. I even have them add in a magnesium if they, at night. If they have issues, we know they have issues already, we're going to start them real low, because a lot of times the dosing is too, if they're having that trouble, a lot of times when that happens is, one, they've just started, and the dose is too high, or 2, they've gone from a dose to another dose and the jump was too big a lot of times. And so and a lot of those, a lot of the market brand types that are not custom made, they're a one size fits all. You get the dose that you get, and you can't change it. Those are where we see a lot of those kind of bowel issues and stuff. But ultimately, it is our responsibility, right, to be cognizant of that and to pay attention to that. If I haven't pooped for 6 days, I better be taking some action. I mean, if we're 3 days in and I haven't pooped, we gotta, we need to get after it here. Like, let's go. Magnesium citrate is a thing that you can use as well. Super easy to get. Can help get things flowing. But yeah, I really try to, tell people to focus on the diet, and then we pay close attention to dosing. So, and water, my gosh, drink that water.
Yes. Yeah.
Can't stress that enough, no matter what we're
Oh,
doing. And
I know,
but
right?
in theory, your gut health will improve. You make the lifestyle changes, make it more sustainable, and overall, it shouldn't be a major crash when you come off of it, because those things should be happening, and your metabolism should be improving while you're on it. So, in theory, it should be a pretty easy transition off of it. And you still like, look, if you've been unhealthy for years, 5 to 10 years, 3 months on a GLP-1 probably isn't gonna get it all, and so I think you gotta be realistic about that stuff. And maybe you need a little extra help with your gut because that's where everything stems from anyway, it seems like. So maybe a little more support there with the Sermorelin or the BPC to help with your gut health, and then give that GLP-1 some support so that it can continue to do its thing. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways, and you're right. It's management, and that's why you got to have good people on your team to help you manage that. I mean, we have a good network with you.
Hmm.
To help make people successful. We know where it comes from. It comes from the compounding 503A pharmacy. It's prescribed by a doctor. I mean, so that's another thing too. Is you got to make sure that where you're getting it from is a legitimate source, and we can't ever stress that enough with these peptides.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is incredibly important to make sure that your peptides are coming from a compounding pharmacy prescribed by a doctor, 503A compounding pharmacy at that. Yeah, incredibly important. It's just and it is a non-negotiable for me. Honestly, I'm not going to put anything in my body or anybody else's, or even recommend it to anyone else, if I can't guarantee that it's the safest, most effective peptide I can get my hands on. So.
One other thing I just wanted to touch on, I think you guys talked about it earlier with the cardiologist. If you think about people that are diabetics and how many more things they are at risk for, they have increased risk of heart disease, they have increased risk of, poor circulation, all those things. So, because it is those higher blood sugars that are circulating throughout the body, and so it is, that's where that longevity piece of this really does come in. And I think probably is where, like, the clearing of the brain fog also, I'm assuming this is all because of the moderated blood sugars. And so am I understanding that right, you guys? I haven't listened to that other podcast.
Yeah, and again, you're on the right track. But the thing with these, especially the dual agonists, when you've got multiple different pathways and you've got GLP and GIP receptors in multiple different organs and areas, they there are several things going on. But yes, the blood sugar, metabolic improvements can decrease heart disease by 30. That means if I stick you on a microdose, I can literally, I'm, I can, research shows I can decrease your risk of heart disease by 30% just by helping improve your metabolic health, which is blood sugar control, insulin resistance, all of these things that as we age, we get worse at, and so it's a huge deal. And I mean, when we're doing that, we're decreasing inflammation as well. So, they've found that it in the brain, it helps decrease the blood sugar there, obviously. So we're controlling that better. We're decreasing neuroinflammation with these things. I mean, it's it's it just blows my mind, and I can't believe it took me so long to find this out. But here we are.
If somebody has more questions, to make sure that they visit with a peptide trained physician or
Absolutely.
healthcare provider. And yeah, somebody that is really truly educated on this stuff, because it is very new. I mean, it is really pretty new part of healthcare, and just really making sure that you're getting with somebody who really truly understands it, who understands the dosing of it, understands the ins and outs of it, and not just not to knock our general practitioners, but they may not have the right training for it. Correct.
Yes, you are correct. That's very correct. And I deal with a lot of pushback because I work in a hospital. Um, And so I get into a lot of discussions with people who don't agree with me on that. But there are some fantastic practitioners out there that are extremely knowledgeable and have been using peptides for years. They were doing peptides when peptides weren't cool, and so I mean they have extensive experience. But yeah, that just finding someone who knows how it works and can help you kind of get on the right path. That's the key.
It all ties in together. It all ties in together. It is a tool, right? And there's other benefits as well, like your quality of life, your productivity, how much stuff you get done, how good of a year you're gonna have, and how well you can train to reach your goals and stay focused in your goals goes back to a lot about how you feel. We've talked about it before. If you're injured and you're hurt and you're in pain all the time, all those things go back down. If you're not confident in your body, or you have brain fog, or you're chronically ill, or you have heart disease, and you cannot feel your best, so you can't be your best. You can't be the best in your job, can't be the best for your family, can't be the best for yourself. So it is just one more tool to help you feel your best so you can reach all your other goals throughout the year.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it is one of those things that we can customize to people because no two people are the same. And so, there are peptides for all kinds of different things. And I think that's why I love it the most is because I can take someone and look at their specific issues, what they're struggling with. That's my first question when somebody reaches out to me. What are you struggling with? And we can help them. We have a way to help them. We have a way to tell their body how to function like it used to. Look at the root cause and go from there. So it's incredible.
We appreciate you, Maggie. And if people can't find anybody that they feel comfortable with talking about peptides, get a hold of Destry or I, and we can get them in contact with you, Maggie. And Maggie's been awesome. She's got jumped on some Zoom calls with us with clients that are just wanting, dealing with some health things, needing a little bit of help. She's a great resource and always willing to talk. And so, if anybody, just wants to know if this is the right route for them and they don't have a trusted healthcare provider that is very knowledgeable about peptides, um, get a hold of Destry or I, and we can sure help get you guys in contact with Maggie and figure out what needs to happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. I am happy to help. And thank you guys so much for having me. It's always fun.
Yes, man, it's always a pleasure. And thank you so much, Maggie. And we truly appreciate your expertise. And thank you all for listening. And as always, let your health be the pivot point to your success.